Welcome to Brainbox. In present session, we are going to discuss about metals and non-metals. So first of all, we'll see about the metals and their physical properties. See, in your daily life, you would have seen many metals. Like you would have seen substances are things which are made up of iron, the jewelry which are made up of gold, and the vessels which are made up of copper. Okay, like this, you would have seen many things in your daily life. Iron will just use to like prepare window grills or in the construction purpose, or gold you would have seen the many jewelry with the gold, and copper vessels. Copper is majorly used for the preparation of vessels or even in the preparation of electrical wires. Like that, in day-to-day life, we would have seen many metals which we have used, right? And now, first of all, we'll see about the physical properties of metals. So, among the physical properties of metals, the first most property is their malleability. Okay, so what is this malleability? So, malleability is ability of any metal to get drawn into very thin sheets. So, sheets means they must be very thin. How much thin? We will say that much malleable the given metal is, right? For example, aluminium. See, if at all you see aluminium in your daily life, like for food wrapping or packing, you would have seen the aluminium sheets what they have used, right? And how thin they are? They're very thin, right? And that much thin sheets we are able to draw it only because of the property of aluminium, which is known as malleable, right? So we can say aluminium is malleable. And you would have even seen that many were copper sheets, gold sheets, are the sheets made up of iron, because all these are the metals and they have the basic property that ability to be drawn into thin sheets. Okay, so that ability we are going to call it as malleability. So each and every metal is characterized with this basic property, that malleability, right? And the another property of metal what we can see is ductility. Okay, so here if we are able to draw the given metal into a thin sheet, then we say that the given metal is malleable. And at the same time, if we are able to draw the given metal into a thin wire, then we are going to call it as ductile, right? See, you would have seen copper wires, which we very frequently use in electric circuits, right? In almost all electric circuits, we use many metal wires like copper, aluminium, silver, like this, all metal wires we will be using. And even you would have seen the binding wire, which is most frequently used in the case of construction purpose, which is made up of iron, right? Now, in all these cases, we are able to draw the metal into very thin sheet. And that property which is shown by the metals is known as ductility. So, what is ductility is basically? Ductility is ability to be drawn into thin wires. Okay, then we'll go for the another property of metals, that almost all metals are sonorous in nature. Okay, almost all metals are basically sonorous in nature, means when we give a hit to the metal, they basically make some sound, right? So take a hammer and try to hit on something like iron or copper or steel, stainless steel vessels, like this. In all these cases, they make large amount of noise, right? And that noise making capacity is there with almost all metals, so which produce sound when they hit by something are known as sonorous. So when you visit temples, you would have seen many bells which are ringing, and what they are made up of? The bells are all made up of the metals, because basically they are sonorous in nature. And we will prepare the metal with bronze metals, means the bells in the temples are basically made up of bronze, which can make a large amount of sound, right? So what is the sonorous nature? the ability to produce sound when hit by something, right? So what is sonorous? It is the ability to produce sound when hit by something. So if we take some hammer or something and we hit the metals, then they definitely produce the sound. And this sound producing capacity is known as sonorous nature, and all metals are sonorous in nature, right? And similarly, if at all we have taken the other properties, so still other properties in the sense all metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Heat and electricity, so they can conduct heat. See, if at all, like we take generally, for example, we take iron rod and heat it from one end, definitely the heat will be transferred to the other end so that you can experience the heat on the other end, right? And see, the vessels are something which we use for cooking or boiling, right, nowadays in daily purpose, right? See, we heat the vessel only at one end of the part, right? But the same heat will be transferred to the other end, and even when we are cooking also, that will be transferred into the food. Means they are having the good conducting capacity. They can transfer the heat from one place to another place, and because of that only we call them as good conductors of heat. And moreover, they are also good conductors of electricity. So this makes them use in almost all electric circuits. See, you would have seen this point, like whenever we see the electric circuits, we use all aluminum wires or copper wires like this, right? That is because basically they are able to conduct the electricity, right? So what is the basic property of the metal? They are conductors of heat as well as they are conductors of electricity. And finally, they are lustrous in nature. Lustrous in nature. So how can we say that they are lustrous in nature? Lustrous nature means what? The ability of any metal to show the shining whenever some light falls on that, right? See, you would have seen many metals like iron, just not, we cannot say, but gold, copper, if at all we have seen, they are more lustrous. And you would have seen the lustrous nature of aluminum, which shines to very large extent. Means most of the metals are basically lustrous in nature, means which shines, means the ability to shine. Lustrous nature is what? Ability to shine when light falls on them. When light falls on them, they can show the shining, right? The ability of the metals to shine when light falls on them is known as lustrous, and all the metals are lustrous in nature, right? So let us see what are the properties as a summary. So the properties of the metals are malleability, ductility, sonorous nature, conducting, and lustrous nature. So malleability means the ability of a metal to be drawn into very thin sheets, right? If at all we are able to draw the metal into thin wires, then we call it as ductility. And similarly, if a given metal is producing some sound when you hit it with something, then you call it as sonorous. And similarly, conductors. If the heat can be transferred from one end of the given metal to the another end, then we can say that they are heat conductors, conductors of heat. Similarly, if the electricity also can be transferred, then we can say they are conductors of electricity. And metals are good conductors of both heat as well as electricity, right? And finally, lustrous nature, the ability of any metal to get shine or to show the shining when something falls, means some light falls on them, is known as the lustrous nature. So these are basically the properties of metals. And apart from this, almost all metals are solid in their state, and for this we have an exception, that Mercury is liquid metal. So except this, remaining all means almost all metals are solid in state. And most of the metals are hard, right? But here we have few metals which are even soft also, like metals like sodium and potassium are soft in nature. Means they are like waxy metals and you can cut them with the knife. Means they are not hard as iron, copper, like that. They are soft metals. So how can we say soft metals? In the sense they are soft like wax, right? So that you can cut them with knife. Means they are soft and can cut with knife. Okay, so these are the basic physical properties of metals, and now have a look at these properties.